So after the sexual assault, I immediately got very nervous and went on. It's an online group, a safe haven for women where we can talk about anything, and there's a lot of nurses and nurse practitioners in there. And they said, Heather, what happened to you in that pelvic exam was abuse. That was sexual abuse. And since you're disabled and you're autistic, you're more likely to have something like that happen to you. I finally got up the nerve to call. That day, I called the rape trauma hotline at True North. And I said, I need to be seen by a doctor. I'm bleeding really heavily again. The pain is out of control. I'm having these fever and chills. I feel very bloated. I feel nauseated all the time. I just got sexually assaulted at Women's and Children's Hospital. I'm going to go to Boone. I need a victim's advocate to meet me there. She met me there. Dr. Scott, I have the audio from that too. I reported the sexual assault, though I didn't call it that word. I said what he was doing was not right. And he kind of looked at me like, you're criticizing all these doctors. Never mind, he didn't want to hear the audio. If he had listened to it, which I believe he actually should have heard that evidence, because doctors can absolutely call and write other doctors up to the Missouri Board of Healing Arts. I believe it's their responsibility to do that. He said, basically, I'm not treating you out of the ER. What he did do was he made a personal referral to one of his personal friends named Dr. Michael Burks. He says, I really like this lady. Please see her. I made an appointment. He had to go do a delivery, so I didn't get to see him. I didn't realize that I was going to have the full payment. In the meantime, this other rupture happened. I ended up out at Green Meadows. That week, I had planned with my victim's advocate at True North to report the sexual assault to Women's and Children's, because I really had all these horrible GYN issues going on, these ruptures, and what we now know to be underlying sepsis. And I was scared to death to go anywhere for care. So I went down to True North and I sat and I gave a statement. While going septic, I now know I was going septic, to a detective and 2 police officers. I made sure they accommodated me. When Taylor called them, she said, we have some accommodations. She's autistic. We need somebody who has crisis intervention training so that they know how to, be patient with her autism. And we need a woman, because a woman will know what's not supposed to happen in a damn pelvic. And that was the smartest thing that we did, because I made sure he had a body cam. And the woman was like, she immediately had red flags going off. I didn't know what I was saying was wrong, but she, as a woman, knew instantly that what I was describing wasn't right. I said, when that speculum's open and when it isn't. It clicks 3 times. They get their swabs. They click it to close it, pull it out, 10 seconds, boom. That's not what you hear. That thing clicks and clicks and clicks, and I'm yelping for 3 minutes. They're screaming at me. He touches me in my pubes. He's barely touching me. It's not like he was feeling for the uterus. And let me tell you, I wrote up every single doctor I saw, because they all falsified the medical records to cover everybody else's butt. None of them did anything inappropriately in any pelvic exam. Dr. Wilson didn't do any, inappropriate touching. Dr. Scott didn't do any appropriate touching. You can tell when they're feeling, because they press on your bladder, you can feel all that. That's not what this guy was doing. He didn't do any of that. He was just basically digging in me with a speculum. I'm making sure I didn't miss anything in there for 3 minutes. He identified my cervix as healthy within the first 27 seconds. So the next 2 minutes, And when you're in that much pain and you can hear I'm in really ungodly pain, what are you doing? You already got your swabs. The nurse is sitting there yelling at me. So after I saw, and I told, and after I called and hinted and left another message with Gloria Kroll going, you need to get me in there to amend these records. I'm in bad shape. I'm in bad shape. I need proper care. I did not terminate my care. And I recorded me leaving. You can hear her voicemail, her assistant Linda's voicemail, and me leaving the message, I'm in bad shape, I'm in bad shape. Nobody ever returns my calls. I didn't know that them and the commissioner and Nanette Ward were trying to basically run me out of town by torturing me with sepsis and hemorrhaging and a rupturing tumor. I didn't know Nanette had climbed. The Central Missouri Stop Human Trafficking Coalition was all associated with the university and that she was running interference for the university. So after I left another message for Gloria Kroll hinting at if Beth Sweeney is embarrassed about something she got recorded doing in that exam room, she better grow up. Well, Nanette Ward had quit talking to me for about a month and a half, 2 months. Didn't return any phone calls. Didn't send me any emails. All of a sudden, in June, I get a phone call from her. Well, how are you? Or an email. Well, how are you? How have you been? You know how the fuck I've been. Very sick. You know they fired me under false pretenses and then asserted that I terminated my care. We go down to Hardee's. This is June. We go down to Hardee's, and I said, so Beth deleted the email where I'm asking for another provider because I mentioned this reference to friendship. She deleted it and then went and lied to her administration. Nanette was like, well, yeah. And I'm like, is she out of her mind? Does she really think I'm going to just sit here and die? Because she's what? So, and she was like, well, yeah, she fired you. She had you fired. She didn't want anybody to know. She wanted to sleep, have you eat her out or whatever it was she was thinking. So it's clear on that audio with the net, I didn't get it. I knew we were pretty intense about each other, but I didn't know that that's what that meant. If I want to sleep with somebody, hey, let's fuck. I don't make, I'm autistic. I don't make these references. Flirting, yes, but I don't do, let's be friends someday. Well, that to me means let's be friends someday. That's Asperger's. And they know all of this. Beth knew that I was very literal and that I didn't understand hints and, this cryptic sort of crap that NTs do. And they may pick up on it because they're all playing that game. They knew I wasn't playing the game. No interest in being a good old gal. No interest whatsoever. So I'm like, okay. So in the interim, I end up getting this horrible infection in my throat. That's where a lot of the swelling is from. It never went down. The doctor, I was in the early stages of sepsis because I still had all that full body ache, fever, all of that. The doctor orders Nilton. Dr. Scott was on that night again too in June. I could barely speak. I could barely swallow. I could barely take a sip of anything. He says, you've got a pharyngitis. He did a CAT scan. He didn't tell me that it showed not only a pharyngitis infection, but also an abscess in my neck, which meant that sepsis was really kicking ass and taking names is what it meant. I'm a MRSA carrier. I'm already colonized with MRSA in my bloodstream. They kept sending me home to die is what they kept doing.